Hello, everyone. This is John Galt speaking, here with a request. Someone sent in a contribution to my YouTube page via my PayPal links, and that's generally how most videos get made on this page. And they requested a couple things, so it was a fairly decent contribution. So I'm gonna, I don't know, try to answer as many of them as I can. But the main one that they wanted to know was how I do multiplayer respawn. Multiplayer. Why is it always multiplayer? Why? Can you guys not just make single player games? Apparently not. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to accomplish that. He asked some other stuff too, but depending on how long this takes, I may or may not answer the other ones in this video. They'll get answered because of the contribution that he made, but it might not fit all in one video. It depends. I've been busy today. I've been working on my teams and class select template update, which is submitted, by the way. So we'll see how that goes. Anywho. So he wants this done in Unreal Engine 5 because that's the new flashy engine. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to create a default third person template. And then we will get into it, right? So that's what we're going to do. And hopefully I can navigate my way around this new engine version. I'm not liking it. I'll tell you guys right now, I'm not liking it. But that's just me, right? I'm a creature of habit. I like old school. I still listen to 80s music and classic rock. Get off my lawn. Yeah, I'm one of those guys. Anywho. So before we get started here, the one thing that I would like to discuss just a bit is the notion of how do you kill your player? So there's two main ways that you kill your player. Never mind how you get from health to no health. In the end, the death of the character can be handled two primary ways. One way, which is the probably more traditional way that you guys have seen done, is when the health of the character reaches 0, you play an animation or you activate Ragdoll to play a death animation or make him flop off on the ground. Then he lays there for a minute, and then you destroy the actor and any actors that are attached to that character. So in other words, if you, let's say you had 3 weapons on the character and you destroy the character, well, it doesn't destroy the weapons, right? So it leaves the weapons laying there forever, for infinity and beyond. So if you go the destroy character route, be aware that any actors that are attached to said character will also have to be destroyed. And then that brings you to the notion of, well, how do you give his guns back, right? So it depends on how, I mean, guys, I tell you, there's a million different ways to do everything in this engine, and there really is. So when people ask me to demonstrate or show how I do something, I do it based on the way that I know how something else I do works. So in other words, when I give a character weapons, on event begin play, in the character blueprint, I spawn in said weapons, and then I store them in an inventory or variables. Then I attach them to the character. right? And that's how they get their weapons. There's many other ways that you could do that same thing. Okay. And so whenever the character respawns, every time you destroy the character and then you destroy the weapons, well, then when the character respawns, it also respawns all new weapons and reattaches them to the character every single time. Now, that's the one way that most people do it. Another way that we talked about in a live stream the other day is the notion of doing it the trickery way, the smoke screen and mirrors way, which in my opinion, probably if you are really, really concerned about optimization of your project and or your game, this way would probably be the better way to do it. Okay. So what you do is, instead of destroying the actor, the character blueprint, and all the attachments, instead you still play the death animation, or you enable the ragdoll. He lays there dead for a duration, and then you turn him invisible. And then while he's invisible, you freeze him, right? You disable movement of the character, for example. And while he's invisible and frozen, meaning he can't move, you then, instead of destroying him, you move him, literally move actor to location, and you get a location of a spawn point. And then when you get him moved to that spawn point, then you undo the ragdoll, if that's what you did, or you if you play an animation, you don't have to undo the ragdoll, obviously. But if you do a ragdoll while he's invisible, and then you move him to the location, then you reset the ragdoll so he's not ragdoll anymore, and then you turn him back visible, and then you give control back, meaning you re-enable his movement again. Okay? And then you don't have to worry about destroying all the weapons that are attached to him, because all you did was turn him invisible. You faked it to make it, right? And yeah, so that's another way to do it. And so it saves you, if you do it that way, the last way that I described, it saves you from destroying all those actors and then turning around and respawning new ones, right? So if you guys are unaware of this, destroying actors and spawning actors is not very performance oriented. So I don't know, when you spawn a character, imagine for a moment that when you spawn a character, then you spawn 3 weapons every single time a player dies in your game. Well, if you've got 10 players, now granted, they're probably not all going to die at exactly the same time, which means they're not all going to respawn at exactly the same time. But let's just say that happened, right? Like you had a nuke in your game and you could literally take out every single player on one team with one shot, like the Redeemer in Unreal Tournament, as an example. Well, then you would have 10 player blueprints all trying to spawn at exactly the same time. And then you would be spawning 3 weapons on each character, all exactly at the same time. So depending on your scenario, depending on what you're doing, you might want to think about doing it one way versus the other way. Single player games, it doesn't matter at all. Small scale multiplayer games, it's probably not that big of a deal to destroy the actors and respawn them. But just be aware that there is a cost to destroying actors and respawning them. Okay. Okay. So with that, we're actually going to get started now. So see, my tutorials, if that's what you want to call these things, I don't really call them tutorials. They're more like derping streams and theory crafting streams, where you guys don't just watch me click a bunch of buttons. You actually get some explanation as to why I choose to do one thing one way or a different way, depending on whatever. Okay. So there you have it. So this default third-person template that comes from Epic and Unreal Engine 5, you get to you know, spawn in and be this chick or the dude, you know, whatever. So we're going to start from here and we're going to modify this template simply to give a respawn mechanic. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is drag in, duplicate this player start a couple times, you know, maybe about 5, something like that. Then we're going to set this up for 2 players, right? Because obviously this is going to be multiplayer, so we need to have a way to test it as multiplayer. So we're going to come up here. We're going to set the number of players to 2. We're going to set it to be a listen server, play as listen server. Then we're going to go into advanced settings and we're going to set our windows to 720 by 512. And then we're going to say new editor windows. And so if you read the tops of these, it tells you what's what. So this is client 1 here. And this will be, when you play as a listen server, the server is actually a player too, which a lot of people find strange, but it is. So all the default movements of this character from Epic in this template, all that stuff already replicates, right? So we don't have to do that. You know, I wonder if IK actually replicates in this template. I never even checked that. Does it? Yep. Well, the servers does. How about you, Mr. Client? How about your IK? Yep, it does. Hey, way to go, Epic. I'm glad you made that happen. Okay. So we're going to open up our content drawer and we're going to dock it in the layout here. And we're going to be dealing with mainly the character blueprint, a player controller, and a game mode. Okay, so those 3 blueprints combined is how I do the respawn system normally. So if we look in here, this is our third-person character, BP third-person character. And then this is our BP third-person game mode. So we already have a game mode in here. So we're going to need 1 more blueprint. Okay, so we're going to right-click here. We're going to create a blueprint class. This is going to be a player controller. And we're going to call this BP third person player controller, right? Is that the same name and convention that they used? I guess. I don't know. Maybe. Okay, so we need to make sure that the world that we're in is actually using this game mode. So we're going to come over here to world settings. And as you can see here, it is plugged in. So that's good. So now we need to open this game mode. And you can see that it's got a place for you to plug all kinds of stuff in. So we're going to be plugging in a player controller class, and that's going to be our BP third person player controller. And we shall compile that and save it. And I think we're ready to go, right? So step 1 is we got to kill the player. Okay. So we're probably just going to put in a button to kill him, right? And maybe we'll, I mean, this has to be for multiplayer. He specifically requested multiplayer. So we're not going to do any kind of an animation or anything like that. We're literally going to throw him into Ragdoll. That's what we're going to do. Okay. I do have a reference open on my other screen so that hopefully I can move this along. And besides that, it's impossible to remember all this stuff. And once you've built stuff, it's always good to have a reference that you can go back and go, well, wait a minute, how the hell did I do that again? Right. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Okay. So I'm going to open up my reference here, and we're going to get with it. Okay. So in the character blueprint, we're gonna hotwire in a kill switch, right? And I don't know what button you guys want to use, maybe. So we will say keyboard. Let's just do Z, and we'll do keyboard Z is going to be our kill switch. And once again, this is for multiplayer, so we're going to start out with a custom event. Okay, how about now? Add custom event, and we're going to call this server underscore force respawn, just like that. And it is in fact going to be set to run on the server. And when we press this button, we're going to have the client call server force respawn. And this is where the logic will begin, right here. Okay? Okay. Now, something you guys might find weird is when you're dealing with collisions in the game engine, the person's collision that you tamper with and everyone else needs to know that the collision was tampered with. Otherwise, you have people running into invisible objects and etc., etc., etc. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to create another custom event. And this is going to be called multicast ragdoll. And this is in fact going to be set to a multicast. And the server is going to call that right here, multicast ragdoll. Okay. And there might be some stuff go in the middle here. You guys will have to forgive me for the way that I script, because I script really, really weirdly. So let's go ahead and compile and save that. So to enable ragdoll on a player, you take the mesh of the character, and then you pull out of this and you say set simulate physics. And that will be true here. And then what we would like to do is make it where no other players can run into it, right? So we're also going to pull out of this here, and we're going to say set collision response to channel. And this is going to be pawns, and it's going to be set to ignore. Then we're going to pull out of this again, and we're going to say set collision enabled. And this is going to be set to collision enabled. Let's see. Collision enabled query and physics. Okay. And remember, this is for the mesh of the character. So then we're going to take the capsule component, and we're going to pull out of this, and we're going to say set collision response to channel. And then this is also going to be pawn, and it's going to be set to ignore. Okay. And we will go see what we've got so far, right? So let's minimize this and let's see if we hit play here and I hit that button, what happens? Oh, look at that. And of course we can move, right? We still got work to do, but we're laying there ragdolled. Okay. Now we need to see if it replicates, right? So we're going to take this person, the client here, and we're going to do the same thing. And it does. And of course, yes, we can still move. Okay. So the next part of this, I know you guys would be, right here, you would say, oh, well, we need to disable movement, right? And you would get the character movement component and say, disable movement or disable input. I know that's what you guys would do right here, but it doesn't work that way, right? Because when you disable movement, it stops the movement of the capsule component. Okay. And so that might work very well when you're on the ground, but when you're in the air falling, and you do it, it leaves your capsule component way up in the sky and your ragdoll just falls out. But yet your capsule component stays up in the air. So when you do that disable movement thing, it literally freezes the capsule component in place wherever it may be. And that's not a good idea, right? It's really not a good idea. Okay. So I guess maybe what we'll do here is let's turn on the visibility of this capsule component just so we can kind of monitor what's going on here. So we'll select the capsule component and we will, let's see, where is rendering? Right here. We will uncheck hidden in game so that we can actually see this. Okay. So if you guys will watch, you might have a hard time seeing that capsule component, but if I jump and die, you can see how the capsule, he fell out of the capsule component, but the capsule still landed on the ground. Okay. And that's actually important. Especially if you do some kind of event that's triggered with the event called event on landed. Well, if your capsule freezes in the air, it never lands. You know what? And actually, just to show you guys this, I might do that, right? So let's take the character movement and we, how do you do this? Disable movement. Okay. I just want to do this just to show you guys exactly what happens here when this happens. And a lot of people that do these tutorials, they don't care. Right? They'll literally just throw some shit together and throw it at you. So watch this capsule component. If I jump up in the air and die, now look, see how the capsule component freezes right in midair? Well, if you're triggering something with an on event landed, guess what ain't going to happen while that capsule's stuck in the middle of the air, right? So you don't want that is the point that I'm trying to make. Okay. So we're literally going to do this a different way. Now, the way that I'm going to do this, you guys might not like, but it is in fact the way that I do this. So we're going to create a variable over here called is dead with a question mark. And we will compile that and save it. And we're going to set this to be replicated. And right here, so remember how we're doing our kill switch here? The server is the one that's killing the player. So right here, in between this, we could have the server also set a variable called is dead. Okay. And you want the server to set this variable. And this variable being replicated the way that it is, you could also use this variable in the animation blueprint to trigger an animation to play when you die instead of doing the ragdoll or whatever. And besides this, you'll need this variable at some point in your game, right? Like, oh, well, you can't shoot your weapon if you're dead, right? Well, here you go. This is exactly where a perfect place to set that would be. And now what you can do is you can come over here you know, they've got all this gamepad shit set up here. I mean, this is new, right? So I don't know exactly how they do this. I don't so much care if the character, you know, can move his mouse around. In other words, he can look up, look down, look left, look right. The main thing is you don't want him to be able to move. And this is the movement input that they're doing right here. So right here, if you were to put a branch, hold down B and left click, and you would check is dead, not, right? So is not dead. And what you would do is you would say you can only move forward and backward if you are not dead, which then means if you control W, which is control D now, mysteriously, they changed the duplicate shortcut, sons of bitches. Okay. And then you also want to not be able to move left and right only if you are not dead, which then also means it would probably be a good idea to say that if you are control D to duplicate this, you can't jump nor stop jumping unless you are not dead. Okay. So you can jump if you are not dead, and you can stop jumping if you are not dead. Oh, okay. And compile and save that. And now let's go do a test. I test every step of the way, right? That way, if I frig up something, I don't have to chase it for 2 hours. Okay. So now when we die, if we die in midair, the capsule will continue to fall and we can look around, but we cannot WASD because we are not dead. We're dead, right? So that's the way that I do it. I don't care if the character can look around, but we definitely want that capsule to at least fall from the air, right? Like if you die 10 feet off the ground, you know, your camera also, by the way, your camera, I believe, is attached to that capsule, right? So if you die in midair and your capsule freezes, you're not going to get to see, you know, where does your ragdoll land, right? And doing it this way, right? Like if we come up here and jump off of this and kill ourselves, actually I hit the wrong key. I should have picked an easier key. Okay, so we do this. See, now the capsule kind of follows the trajectory that the ragdoll went so that you can, oh, well, look at that. I'm laying there ragdolled as hell. Okay. Okay. Actually, it's control D to duplicate. Is it control V also? That's paste, isn't it? I don't know. They screw with so much stuff, it just makes my brains hurt. I wish they would just leave shit alone, honestly. All right, so let's go ahead and keep bashing this out here. Okay. So now what we're going to do, and once again, you know, I'm not going to sit in here and clean all this crap up. This is something that's just for demonstration purposes. Okay. So now what we want to do is we're actually going to do a check here. And we want to know if the character is falling. Okay. And you know, this is the multicast ragdoll here. So this needs to go on the server, right? So let's move this down. This is our multicast stuff. Should probably just put that in a function. Okay. but we're just going to go from here. So we're going to get the character's movement component, and we're going to pull out of this, and we're going to check is falling. Get is falling here. And we want to know if the character is not B, type not in the letter B, not Boolean. And we're going to hold down B and put a branch here. We want to know if the character is not falling. And this will make sense here in a minute when I explain this to you guys, why we care if the character's freaking falling or not. See, most people that do these tutorials, they don't give a shit, right? But once I show you guys why it's actually important to know if the character is falling, and that capsule needs to be able to fall, okay? The reason that it's important is because of what we're getting ready to do right now, which is a respawn timer, okay? What happens if you have a 5-second respawn timer, okay? And you're still falling before that 5 seconds is over, right? That means you will respawn in midair. Like, you'll be falling, you're dead, you're falling, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it respawns you while you're still falling, okay? It's just weird. Just don't do that, okay? Trust me, this makes sense. So we're going to check that, and this is going to be our time for how long we wait before we respawn, right? So I'm just going to put something real quick in here for right now. We'll just put 5 seconds in here, okay? And then we're going to use the event on landed. Okay, this is built right into the engine. It's called event on landed. And we're going to put a has authority. This switch has authority node, goes right here. And then we're going to put a branch here out of the authority. And we're going to check is dead. Okay. And if this is true, we're going to catch this part right here, okay? We'll get into the rest of the respawn here in just a minute. Just give me a second here. I'm looking at my crap, okay? So that I can make this go. And once again, when we get finished here, we might come back and do a recap. But it's actually important to know if the character's in the damn air or not. I hope that makes sense, right? You don't trigger your respawn timer if you're falling, okay? If you're falling, your respawn timer does not need to start until you hit the ground, okay? Otherwise, it gets weird in the respawn. You can literally still be falling from your death, and the respawn timer starts counting down as soon as you're dead. You don't want that. You want the timer to start when your corpse hits the ground. Okay? Okay. Okay, and we're also going to use another event here. Let me move this down a little bit more. That's all that's for right there, is to multicast the ragdoll. That's all that is, and it's called right here. So, and once again, we put this on a kill switch. This, you could also tie this in to wherever, like if your character already has health, when the health reaches 0, you call this, and that starts your chain of death and respawn, okay? Okay, so we're going to use another event here called event unpossessed. Event unpossessed. We're going to put another has authority, switch has authority. And the reason that these go here, by the way, if you guys watched my multiplayer madness from a redneck video, every single one of these events that are built into this engine fire in multiplayer on the server and the client. This is to filter out the client call so that the only thing that comes out the back side of this is the server call. Okay. And we're going to be doing destroy actor. On event unpossessed, we're going to destroy the actor. Okay. And now we're going to create another custom event. And this one is going to be called client underscore respawn. And this is going to be set to run on owning client. And at the end of this delay, we're going to call, the server is actually going to call client respawn. So after it does all this stuff, we wait for this long, however long you want your respawn to be. And then we call client respawn. So if you guys haven't seen my little naming convention here, anything that I run on the server, I prefix it with server. Anything that I multicast, I prefix with multicast. That makes me, that way if I get something screwed up, I can come back and say, oh, that's supposed to be multicast. So I can click it and look, oh shit, I didn't set that to multicast, right? So that's how I do it. If it's something I want to run on the server, I prefix it with server. If it's something I want multicast, I prefix it with multicast. If it's something that only the owning client needs to do, I prefix it with client. Does that make sense? Okay. Now we get to hot blueprints, by the way. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to be jumping into the player controller. So right here, we're going to say get player controller. And then we're going to cast to that custom player controller that we created. So it was called BP. There it is. BP third person player controller. And we're going to do this. And then we need to create a event on the player controller. Okay. And so let's open up the player controller blueprint, which is this one. And in the event graph, we can delete all this stuff. We're going to create a custom event. And this is going to be called server underscore request respawn. And as you might know, that's going to be ran on the server. So we're going to leave that right there. And we're going to go back to the player character blueprint. That is what we're going to have the owning client call, is going to be server request respawn. And so now we're jumping from the character blueprint into the player controller, which is right here. Okay. And we're going to say get game mode. And we want to check if a game mode is valid. The server's actually checking this, by the way, because this is ran on the server. And then we're going to cast to the custom game mode. Okay. And that was called BP third person game mode. Like that. And oddly enough, we're going to do yet another is valid, the question mark, the macro. Okay. And now we get to hop yet another blueprint. Okay. So now we got to go into the actual game mode blueprint, into the full blueprint editor, and we're going to create another add custom event, and this is going to be called server respawn player. And this is in fact going to be ran on the server. And we need to pass through a player controller reference. Okay. And let me look here so that I don't get this wrong. Okay. Okay. Now this is going to be a little strange, so pay attention here. We're going to pass through a generic player controller, not the custom one, the generic player controller. Okay. So we're going to add an input here, and we're literally going to call this player controller. And we're going to change this to the type, a generic player controller. Okay. Not the custom one, not the custom one. We're going to pass through just a generic player controller object reference like this. Then we're going to back up one blueprint. So we're going to go into the player controller. And this is our custom game mode. We're going to call server respawn player. And the player controller that's going to get passed through here is a reference to self, meaning this player controller. Okay, the blueprint that we're in right here. Okay. Okay. So that takes us into the game mode. And now we get to go in here and do some bullshit. Okay. So first things is we're going to do an is valid. The macro here is valid. And then we're going to do spawn actor from class, if this is valid. And now we need to create an array of spawn points. Okay, so we're setting this up to be a out of all your spawn points, pick one at random. Okay, that's what we're going for here. Oh, and by the way, the class is going to be that third person character blueprint, right? So right here it is, BP third person character. That's going to be the character that we spawn. Okay, and it's going to be pissed here because it's already wanting the spawn transform or whatever. Okay. So we're going to create an array of spawn points. Okay. So in the game mode, right, this is where we're going to do this. We're going to do event begin play. So when this game mode spawns, we're going to put just a split second of a delay here. Maybe do like 0.5 here. Then we're going to do a has authority, which honestly, the has authority should go before the delay, I would imagine. We don't need the erroneous client calls, but I believe the game mode only exists on the server anyway, but it's good practice just to go ahead and do that after every damn event. Don't let no clients come in here trying to call anything. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to get all actors of class. And you guys know what the class is? Well, the class is these player starts. Okay. So back in the game mode, we're going to do a search for player start right here. Let's make damn sure that that's the player starts that we're using, right? See how many different ones they got? They got player start. They got player start pie. Okay, so let's make sure that we're getting the correct one. So what damn are these, right? Are these player start here? I don't know how we get them, but I'm just going to assume that they're just the normal player starts. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out. Okay, it won't work if it's wrong. So we're just going to get this one here that's highlighted blue. Okay. And then we're going to do a for each loop. So we're going to loop through however many it finds. And then we're going to pull out of the element array and we're going to do add. And this will be, make sure you get the correct add here. This will be add, and it should be Jesus Christ, how many adds are there? What am I trying to do here? This is add. Son of a bitch. Okay, well, I don't fucking know which one it is. What is it? Operator. Oh, here it is. It's under the utilities array. It's the array add. That's the specific one that we're looking for. Okay. Then we're going to promote this right here to a variable. And we're going to call this player starts. Or maybe player spawn points. Player spawn points. How about that? So what that does is it will look in the entire level and it will get every single player start and it will add them to this array. That's what that does. I know that's convoluted, but whatever. That's exactly what that does. Okay. And now we can go back down here and we can get from point A to point B. Okay. So first we take the player spawn points array, we get them, and then we want the length of those. And we're going to subtract. So we're going to type minus subtract. We're going to subtract 1. And the reason is because these damn arrays start at index 0. Right? So I hate working with arrays, by the way. And then we're going to pull out of this and we're going to say get. And this will be the array get copy. And we're going to plug this in here like this. And then we're going to pull out of this and say get actor transform. Get actor transform. And then we're going to right click on that pin and we're going to split it. And we're going to right click on this spawn transform pin and split it. And we only need the location and the rotation. And we're going to set this to try to adjust, but always spawn. And then we can compile that and save it, and that should get rid of our stupid error. Because I script with errors. That's just what I do. Okay? All right. So now we want to check if this player that it spawned is valid. The macro is valid. And then we're going to pull out of this and say possess. No, we're not looking for possessable. That's not what we're looking for. Maybe we can bring our reference over here, right? Let's pull out of this player controller reference all the way down here. And now let's type POSSES. There it is. That's what we're looking for. Possesses. Okay, and that is the target. And the end pawn is going to be this one. And that is if this is valid. Okay, so let's double click this target wire here and we'll just pull this up this way. Just to get it up here. Something like that. Boy, that looks beautiful, doesn't it? Look at that big old long line. Okay, and compile and save. All right, so theoretically, we should be in business here. So let's go try this out and see if, you know, every time I do this, I tell you guys, I always feel like Wile E. Coyote playing with an Acme Dynamite kit. So this may or may not work right out of the gate. We'll see. All right, cross your fingers and toes, guys. Let's see what happens here. So we're going to hit play. And I'm going to take the server first. And I'm going to murder him by hitting the Z key. And we're going to wait that 5 seconds and let's see if it respawns us. And voila. There's one down, right? Let's do it one more time just to make sure that it respawns us back at one of those spawn points. And then we will take the client, which is this screen, and we will die and see if it respawns us back at one of those spawn points. Voila. And so it picks one at random. Okay. Now, the only flaw to this little system that we put together is what happens if all the player spawns are full, right? That's why we put in the spawn in the game mode. That's why we put this. Try to adjust location, but always spawn. Now there is a way, and we're not doing it in this video, but there is a way to check all those spawn points to see if there's anything in them or not. And if there is something in one of them, you can make it skip that one and look for a different one. But then the question becomes, well, what happens if they're all fucking full? Right? What happens if they're all full? You just don't spawn the player, right? So by putting this, try to adjust, but always spawn. Let's see if we can break it, right? I mean, that's always the way to go. Just see if we can break it, right? So let's literally delete all these spawn points except for one. Okay, and let's see what happens here. So I'm going to spawn in, and you see how it put them kind of side by side? So I'm going to take this person here, and I'm going to murder them and let them respawn, and let's see what happens. Generally what happens is they stick inside each other. All right, well, it worked that time. So now let's take the server and try it. See if we can break it, right? I mean, that's the way to test your mechanics. See if you can break it. Do you really need to go that extra step to check to see if the spawns are empty? Yes or no? Well, it depends. If you do this 10,000 times and you never break it, well, then probably not. But you know, there's always going to be that one damn player that breaks it, right? Always. Actually, let's. Yep. See? So, seems to work. Okay, now once again, it's set up to do these at random. So no matter how many spawn points you have, it will pick them at random. So you can literally have as many of these damn things as you want, and it don't matter. Why are you not duplicating? Work with me here. Okay. So there, it picked that one. Let's see if it picks a different one, which it should. Watch, it's going to pick the exact same damn one every time. You son of a bitch. Come on now. Are you kidding me? Is it literally picking the same one every time? That can't be right. What did we do? Did we literally break it? I bet I know what it is. Maybe. Maybe. Let me look at my reference here. No, those variables are not replicated. I guess it just likes that damn spawn point. Right? Let's just try it again. Surely it won't do the same one every damn time. Nope, it did a different one that time. I'm sure of it. Because last time we spawned over that way. Now it's going to get hung up on that one. It loves that one. All right, fine. Let's try the client here. There, now it spawned her up there. Let's see if it keeps spawning her up at the same one. I might have something wrong here. I don't know. We'll see. Yep, it's picking the same one every time. I guess random ain't very random after all, is it? Shit, you gotta be fucking shitting me. Okay, it's picking the same one every time. Let me look at this. What did I do wrong here? So the spawn points, we're getting the length, we're subtracting one. Are we actually building these correctly up here, right? So we're looping through. It could be, I don't know, it could be that delay might need to be longer. Do you guys remember the conversation we had about the order of operations, meaning all these blueprints don't spawn at exactly the same time? So let's try increasing that. And if that ain't it, maybe this variable here needs to be replicated. That could potentially be it too. So let's just see. It does it initially. There, it's putting her right back at the same damn one. Yep. All right, fine. We will try to replicate this variable right here. So let's set that to be replicated. That could be it, right? It could be something as simple as that. Remember what I always said? There's a way to know, right? Like there's literally a way to know if a variable needs to be replicated or not. It won't fucking work. Nope. I don't think that's the problem. It's Unreal Engine 5. We'll just call that that. That's what it is. Nope. There's something screwy here, and I don't quite exactly know what it is. So it ain't got nothing to do with that being replicated. So we can set that back to none. I mean, that's getting them all. And this right here should be getting a random. Oh, wait a minute. I know what it is. I don't see chat, so you guys might have already figured out what's actually missing here. What's actually missing here is after this subtraction, we need to do a random integer. That's exactly what the damn problem is. How did you guys let me forget that? Right? That right there is the problem. So even this delay here, that ain't what it is. I mean, we could leave it at that, but 0.5 should be plenty for this. I bet you it works now. How about now? Yep, it didn't pick at that time, you son of a bitch. Uh-oh. Are we getting hung up on the same ones again? Nope. It is doing random now. So that was the problem. I missed the random integer. There you go. Voila. All right, let me bring Chad up here. Alardon got it. Yep, I don't know how I missed that, but that's exactly what it was. I missed the random. All right, let me bring Chad over here. See what you guys have to say. So Travis Neal, you should totally cover how to do multiplayer skins, like the player buys a DLC pack and it applies the material to the character. For example, you buy a green material and change from blue to green. You can't really do that kind of stuff unless you do dedicated servers, right? I mean, you could jerry rig it to do it with listen servers, but that's far too much to go into. That is that's too deep, right? Like you could do it, like I could do it, but it's just too deep. I mean, first of all, you got to set up a way to receive payments. Okay. Or you could earn in-game currency by whatever, right? So there's a bunch of different ways that you could do that. But that's way too much to stick in a live stream. I used to get paid to do that kind of stuff, actually, when I was doing contract work and stuff. And then you also have to, that has to be considered before you ever even start scripting the first thing or coding the first thing. Okay. As an example, here's what I mean. Are all your characters going to use the same skeleton? Share it? Right? Well, if they are, you can sell a different mesh. And all you got to do is change the mesh in the character blueprint. If they're not going to use the same skeleton, well, then you can't do it that way. You have to respawn an entire new character blueprint with the new mesh in it, right? So it gets really complicated. I will say this, conformity matters. Now you guys might understand why I harp so much on, okay, if your first character is built and it's using the default UE4 skeleton, every single character in your entire game should use the same default skeleton hierarchy. Why? Well, if you go to selling custom skins, guess what you get to do? All you have to do is swap the mesh out, which means you don't have to spawn an entire new character blueprint, which also means you don't have to create a different animation blueprint for every damn character in your game, right? Because if you swap the mesh to a different character, well, it's got to have its own unique sets of animations, right? Give or take, right? I mean, you can do the whole retargeting bullshit, but I find that stuff don't work worth a piss. Epic loves it, but I don't think it works worth a piss. Okay? Okay. All right. So we're going to do a recap. So this all started in the character blueprint. And what we did was we put in a key press and we created a custom event that's run on the server called server force respawn. The server is setting a variable called isDead to true whenever we force respawn. The sole purpose in this demonstration of this variable right here is so that we can disable the movement of the character in the jumping without actually disabling the movement of the capsule component. When you use the built-in node called disable movement or whatever it is that we looked at, that freezes the capsule component wherever it is whenever that happens, and you don't want that. The capsule component still needs to land. If you die in midair, your character goes into a ragdoll, but the capsule component still needs to come down and hit the ground. Another reason for that is so that when you start your respawn timer, this timer does not start until the character hits the ground. If he's in the air, right? That's why we have this check. So client calls an event called server force respawn. The server sets the variable isDead, replicated variable isDead to true. Then the server calls multicast ragdoll, which is this series of scripting we did here, which essentially sets the character into ragdoll, and it also disables some collisions so that other players can't run into the corpse laying on the ground, and they also cannot run into the capsule component. It ignores players, okay? It ignores pawns. You have to do the multicast anytime you mess with collisions. Also, you do it when you mess with movement speeds too, just as a side note. Okay? So after it multicasts the ragdoll, then it checks to see if the character is not in the air. He's not falling. And if he's not falling, we go ahead and trigger the respawn timer, the countdown, if you will. If he is falling, it don't do anything. Instead, when the capsule component hits the ground, we're checking to see if he is dead. When he hits the ground, is he dead? Yes, he's dead. Now start the respawn timer. Okay? We're also doing event unpossessed. And when you unpossess the player, it destroys the actor, meaning it destroys the character blueprint. Okay? And then we call a custom event that's set to run on the owning client called client respawn. We created in the player controller, the custom player controller, we created an event in there called server request respawn. So the client is asking the server to respawn him. Now we're in the player controller. We're checking to make sure that the game mode is valid. A game mode is valid. And then we're also checking to see if it is in fact the third person game mode valid. You could probably do away with this, but I put in this as a little bit of redundancy. Okay. If the game mode is valid, then we're going into the game mode and we're passing through a reference to this player controller. When the game mode blueprint builds into the world, we are waiting a half a second, and then we're getting every single player start, default player start in the entire level. We're putting them into an array. Okay. Then we're checking to see if that player controller that we passed through here is valid. If it is valid, we've set up some logic here to look at those player spawn points. However many there are, we're subtracting 1 because arrays start at 0. Then we're getting a random 1, and we're getting its transform, which we split apart. And we're also spawning a new third-person character blueprint. And we only wanted the location and the rotation. So after it spawns the new character blueprint, we're checking to see if that new character blueprint is valid. If it is valid, we're running a possess function from the player controller that we passed through. And we are possessing the new pawn that the player that the game mode spawned. We're possessing it, which then is what triggers in the character blueprint that it unpossesses automatically. When you possess a new one, it automatically unpossesses the original. So when that happens, that's what's destroying the character blueprint that's laying on the ground. Okay. And just so you guys know, here's something that you guys ought to know. This is cool. You guys ought to know this. Okay. So I'm going to expand a little bit on the topic that the person that gave the donation, the contribution to my YouTube page, I said that I might get into a little bit more of what he asked. So he wanted to know how to respawn a character, which we accomplished here in multiplayer, by the way. He also wanted to know how you could do a character select, right? Now, setting up the logic the way that we did, it going into the player controller, something that is noteworthy here is that when you destroy your player character blueprint, it does not destroy the player controller that was controlling that player character blueprint. Okay? It doesn't. And so what that means is, if you were to store something in the player controller blueprint, you could then have the game mode spawn a different character blueprint, right? And since we're already passing through the player controller in here, right? Let me show you guys just kind of how this would work. Now, I'm not sitting here making menus and all that stuff, but just as a demonstration here, check this out. So if we were to create a child blueprint of this, and we were to change from the male or from the female to the male, right? So the only difference is going to be that we're going to swap this out for the male. Okay, so if we come in here to the mesh and we change it from the Quinn simple to the Manny simple, and we change the blueprint over to the Manny animation blueprint. Okay, so now we have a child blueprint of that master. So what we could do is in the player controller, I'm just going to put in a hot switch, but you would put this in a menu, right? You would put this same kind of logic in a menu that had a listing of all the characters that you want to pick from. Okay, now once again, it depends on how you designed your game, right? Is each character going to have its own unique blueprint? Well, then this ain't going to work. Do you want to use the same animations across all your characters? Well, then if you do, you don't have to have unique animation blueprints. But in this scenario here, we have a third person character that's got the female, which uses the female animation blueprint. We created a child blueprint, and all we did was switch to the male character, and we made sure that it is using the male animation blueprint instead of the female. So then in your player controller, we can rig up another hot switch in here, right? So we're going to type keyboard let's just put keyboard C for character, right? We'll just do that. And so what you could do is you could create a variable in here like this, and you could call it new character and change it from a Boolean over to the type third person character class reference, not an object reference, a class reference. And when you hit the C key, we could put a flip-flop. Don't use these in multiplayer, by the way, guys, but we're just going to do this as a demonstration. So the first time that we press this, we're going to set, actually the server needs to do this, by the way. So we're going to create a custom event, and we're going to call this server set new character. And we will change this over to be run on the server. Okay. And we're going to call it here server set new character, which we'll call this. And the first time that we press this, we're already the female. Okay. So the first time that we press this, we're going to set this to the child blueprint, which is the male. The second time that we press this, actually, you know what? This probably ain't going to work out this way. Hold on. Let me think for a second here. We just want to rock them back and forth, right? So I tell you what we could do. We could do something better than that. Let's get rid of this flip-flop, and we'll do this. And what we'll do is we will check this. We will get this, and we'll see if this is equal. If this is equal to the third person character. So let's put a branch here. If this is equal to the third person character, we're going to set this to the child. Okay. If it's not, so Control D to duplicate this. If it's not equal, then we're going to set it to the third person character. So that ought to flip flop them. Okay. So We actually need to set this, okay, because it's going to be blank. I think it might be blank, right? When we first do this, it's going to be blank. So why don't we do this, right? Event, begin play. Actually, let's just see if it works, right? I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I think we'll probably have to have the game set this when we initially spawn. But we'll just leave that for now just to see if this will actually work. So, similarly to how we pass through the player controller here, if we go back into the game mode here and we add a new input and we call this new character and we change this over to be a third person object, or no, class reference here, and then we plug this into the actual character here instead of just hard coding it. Theoretically, what should happen is when we press the C key, it will set this accordingly. If you're already the chick, it will set you to the dude. And if you're already the dude, it will set you back to the chick. So let's see if that actually works. So if we press the C key, and then we die, right? See, we got to die to trigger the respawn. Okay, so we hit the Z key now. When we respawn, we should respawn as a dude, not a chick. Or we won't respawn at all. So, okay. Shit. Theoretically, that should have worked. Maybe I'm missing something here. Maybe we need to kill the player first. All right, so this should have... Maybe it's because this variable needs to be replicated. I bet you that might potentially be what it is. So let's try that. And then again, it might be because we need to initialize it. Making games is hard. So we hit the C key. And then we pose ourselves. Now respawn as the dude or I'm going to stab you. And no. Okay, fine. Have it your way. So we will go into the player controller and let's try initializing it. Okay, so we get the new character. We set it. And we set it to... Well, what are we first, right? We're the third person character, so we should be able to do that. Let's do a has authority here. I might have to put some print strings in to debug, but theoretically this should work. Or not. Nope. It's because we need to kill the player. Actually, let me look at this for a second. God damn it. Let's unhook this. Let's just undo some stuff here. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. So we are setting those, and once again, I'm pretty sure that needs to be replicated, but we're just going to set it back to none. Don't replicate shit if you're not 100% sure. So let's put a print string here. When we fire these, I want to know what the status of this is. So let's get this. And we will put this here. Let's just see if this is actually flip-flopping them. Always something. Always something. So if I hit C, third person character child, and then I hit C again, third person character child, and I hit C again, third person character child, that is not correct. Maybe it's because all of them are reading as a child. Like, that could potentially be it. Actually, you know what? Let's just do this. I'm gonna get to the root of this. Is female. Okay, and this is going to be true by default. And then in the, let me close all these blueprints down. I'm getting lost in translation here. And then this one, the is female, is going to be false. Open full blueprint editor. Is female, where the hell is it? That needs to be false in the child. Okay. And now we'll go back into the player controller, and what we really want is out of this. I bet you we have to cast to it. Is female? Oh, hell yes. Cast. Actually, we could just get the owning. Well, do it this way. Get controlled pawn, and then we cast to the third person character, and then we want to know is female, and that is actually what we want to print out when we switch these. This should have worked, right? So I'm trying to dig through here and figure out where I screwed the pooch at. All right. How about now? True. 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 That ain't right. Well, it's because it's not changing. You know what? Let's just do this. I bet you maybe this is what it is. So we need to start back in the character blueprint, and we need to call that client. No. Let's murder the player, right? I think that's what's happening here. So back in the character, remember where we put in this kill switch? We need to call that to get it to respawn us a new character, right? That's, I think, what the problem is. So back in the player controller, when we mash these buttons and we set these new characters, we need to call server force respawn. And then that will trigger all that logic, and it should. Oh, you know what? Son of a bitch, right? Here's the problem, guys. Look what I forgot to plug in right here. Fucking duh, right? We need to get that, and that's what we're passing through. But we still should kill the player anyway, right? All right, let's see if that actually does it now. So if I hit the C key, I'm the chick. And if I hit the C key, it's going to murder me, and I should respawn as the dude. And I didn't. So it's still not exactly right yet. We're getting closer, though. Yeah, you kind of got to fucking have that plugged in. And I bet you that actually has to be replicated, too. Okay, so That's replicated. The server is in fact the one setting it. And that is, see there, that's the child, right? So that don't need to be the child. That just needs to be the third person character. That's what it's saying that it's checking, right? So I'd about be willing to bet you it's this fucking bullshit right here. This is the problem right here, I bet you. Third person character class reference. Third person character child reference. Well, I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's see if we can just get it to change one and not do the flip-flop shit, right? Let's just hold off on this part right here for a second. So what we're wanting to do is go to the child blueprint, which is supposed to be a dude. Then we do this. We call force respawn. It comes back through here. It passes that through. So let's try that. So much for this being easy, huh? So we're the female, and if we croak off here, give me the dude. And it is the dude. Look at that. Okay, so that is what it was. And once again, I don't think that this may not need to be replicated, this variable. So once again, don't do it if you're not sure. So let's set this back to not be replicated. And let's try that on both the server and the client. And let's see what happens. Okay, so the server, we hit the C key. It switches us to the dude. We should respawn as the dude. And we did. And now we take the client and we do the same thing. She's the chick. And when we croak, we should respawn as a dude. And we did. Okay. Yep. So it does not need to be replicated. All right. So this is the issue right here. So what did we put in here? We put in just the third person. So we're checking to see this damn flip-flop shit should work here. So if we are, we don't want that to be, it's probably because of the way I'm trying to do this comparison here. Like that's probably what's screwing this up. So well, I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's see. Use the asset in the browser, right? Let's try that, right? So we have this character selected. So well, shit. Why does this always have to be such a dick? All right, go that way. And use that. Let's set it to none. And now select it and use that. Okay, that's for sure the correct blueprint. So if we're the female, if that's true, we want to set this to that one. And if it's false, we want to set it back to that one. Okay, how about now? I will make this work. Give me the guy. Go. And it didn't. So no, it still ain't working. And it's that stupid logic right there. I'm going to have to do this differently. That ain't going to fucking work. Right. So we're just going to do this. We're going to do this. And we're going to do the node that I tell you guys not to use. Don't ever use this in multiplayer. Never. So the first time we press it, we're going from the male to the female. The second time we press it, we're going from the female to the male. Let's try that. One of these son of a bitch will work. If it ain't broke, fix it till it is. All right. So now give me the dude. And there he is. And if I murder him, I should come back as the female. And I did. So yes, it was the stupid ass way I was trying to do a comparison. The question is though, does this replicate? So let me get spawned in here. Go let the chick look at him. Is that a him? That is a him. That is a him. And now we will do the client. She should come back as a dude. She's a gender bender. And she's a dude. And does he see a dude? Yep. And then if we murder him again, he should come back as a female. And does he see a female? Absolutely, boss. Bingo. There you have it. So yes, that is one way how you can swap the character. So you already have a respawn system built. And now all you need is a way to change which character spawns. Now in this little demonstration, I set this up in the player controller, right? You would create a UI and you would have the UI go into the player controller or the player state, and you would set a new character, and then you transfer it from there into the game mode, because the game mode is what's in charge of respawning your character. I know that took too long. I know that probably didn't make any sense, but that is the demonstration of character switching. Now that is to spawn an entirely new blueprint. Now, if you've done whatever you're doing and all you really need to do is change the skeletal mesh, that is done a little bit differently, right? But this right here actually spawns you an entirely new character blueprint, a child blueprint. Now, if you can't make your new characters be child blueprints of a master character, well, then you have to do this yet again differently. Conformity matters, guys. It makes your life a whole hell of a lot easier. I've seen projects, guys, just so you know, I've seen projects where they had 14 unique character blueprints. 14 different character blueprints, not child blueprints of a master, literally 14 separate character blueprints. No, no, don't do that. Okay. All right, let's bring chat back over here. I don't know how much longer I'm going to stream. He's got more questions. Let's see. Missing random. Yes, that is correct. I believe the Xsola plugin sample covers that scenario. Fourth Joe, I have a question. Do you know of or have a recommended learning roadmap? The only one that I can give you as far as trying to learn how to do this is my Udemy course. John Gall, you're just trying to sell a bunch of shit. Well, what better way to learn how to do this than actually build a game, right? And that Udemy course that I have is 44 hours long. And at the end of it, what you have is essentially my FPS template that I sell on the UE4 marketplace. Essentially, what that course covers is how I went from a completely blank project and ended up close to what you see in my multiplayer FPS template. It's got putting weapons on characters. It's got implementing team play. It's got death and respawn. It's got creating animations. It's got UI shit in it. It's got all kinds of shit in it. Let's see. Oh, was about to ask if it was okay to do that. Yeah, no. You should work with the character. Well, actually, it goes for any blueprints, really. You should be working as creating a master class, and then you script in the master class the ability to create child blueprints of the master class and change things. As an example, what I mean by that is, let's say that you create classes in your game. In other words, you got Juggernaut, Dreadnought, Recon, Biotech, etc., etc. Well, you create a master class for your character. Then you create a child blueprint. You put all your weapons and stuff on it. And then you create another child blueprint of the master, and you can have completely different weapons and completely different skeletal meshes. Then you create another child of that master again, and you put different weapons, different health values, different movement speeds, different meshes. So all you really do is create one master class, and you just take that, make a child, and then you just literally plug in the things that are going to be different for the next class and the next class and the next class. And that's covered in that course, right? That's how we create that template. We create master character and then some different classes. We create a master weapon, and then we have assault rifle, sniper rifle, grenade launcher. All of it comes from the same master blueprint. That's actually a good course. It's in UE4, but it's still relevant for UE5. There's just some minor differences, but for the most part, it's exactly the same. For the most part. Well, let's see. He's got he's got a couple other things here, but I think that covers the bulk of what he was asking. Well, that's pretty nifty. You know, honestly, we didn't even do that, right? So that was irrelevant. That wasn't what the issue was. It was my shoddy scripting. So I'm gonna go ahead and take all this back out again. But that's how you could do it. And then we can go in here, remove that input. We're not doing that anymore. We're just going to hard plug in the third person character. Don't want the child anymore. You could also do the weapons there, right? You can pass through anything from here that you want, right? So, I mean, that's how I do most of it. Like if I was going to change the weapons of a character, only the weapons It's the same character, but it's just going to have a different primary, different secondary, different heavy weapon. I would literally just pass them through. I would rig up the logic in such a way. Well, I mean, it depends. Do you want to kill the player? Right? Well, if you don't want to kill the player, well, then you're going to have to first get rid of the weapons that he has by destroying them, spawn him a brand new set, and then reattach them into the correct locations. Or alternately, you could have a child class that has the new loadout on it and just respawn him a new player. Looks exactly the same. It's just got different gear, in other words. So it really depends on how you, it really depends on how you want to build your game, right? I mean, everybody wants their game to work a specific way, and it's virtually impossible to cover, every possible scenario. But these videos like this should give you an idea of how you could do it, right? You got a choice. You can either load in a new loadout, kill the player, and then when he respawns, he's got the new weaponry. Or you're going to have to take the current player, get rid of all of his weaponry, then spawn new ones and reattach them to the character, right? Pretty cool stuff. Maybe that's what I should do one day. See, the tribe's clone that I was building, that's what I was set up. It was set up to do that, right? You could go up to one of them little stations. You could, depending on what class you were, you had different weapons that you could choose. Like if you were a recon, you could pick between 2 or 3 different types of sniper rifles. You could pick between 2 or 3 different types of secondary weapons, right? So it gets complicated, but I've actually set that up that way before. Well, we just undid everything that we did. It looked like she tripped over that and fell. Ragdoll is so funny. Let's see if I can fling her over to the wall over here. You guys ready for this? Let's go. Nope, not quite. Maybe I could jump from this one over here. See if I can get her to fly over this wall. If I can, I've won the whole entire internet. Ready? Go. Oh, there she went. Oop. That is so funny. Okay, go. If you don't like Ragdoll, get out. I mean, the the physics asset on these new mannequins is not real good, but it's still hysterical to watch to watch that stuff. Cracks me up. Oh, come on. Monkey ass stuff. Work. Why do I feel like I'm playing Super Mario Brothers all over again? I can't make that fucking jump. All right, fine. We're going down here. It goes a little further. Okay, go. Or not. You know what? I will go in there and give this thing twice as much jump power. You have no idea. I will put in cheat codes. There we go. Okay, ready? Not quite. Wonder if this chick here cares if I ragdoll right by her. What do you see? Look, look, she's laying there dead. Give her a hand. Lord have mercy. Well, guys, I believe that is the end of the stream. Get up from there. All right, we're going to get it one more time. Ready? Go. There it went. Done. And that is why your check is falling. Problem is, if you never hit the ground, like if you fall off permanently, right? Let me show you what I mean. If you just walk off into oblivion, you're never going to hit the ground, which means it's never going to trigger the respawn. See? We're falling, 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 falling for eternity. So this is not perfect, but it's still better than starting the respawn timer in midair, right? So you would have to solve that problem a different way. What to do if you never hit the ground? I'd do that with a kill volume, right? That's what I would do. I would create a kill volume for a special circumstance, that if a player falls below here, like you would put it below here, and if he falls off and never hits the ground, when he hits the kill volume, regardless of whether he's fallen or not, you would just respawn him, right? That's how I would solve that. A kill volume. There's a kill volume in here by default, but I would make my own custom one. It's so funny, you know, this character really ain't moving. It's a smoke screen. The capsule is dragging around the player. The capsule is actually what does all the movement in this engine. And you have to use animations and IK and root motion and all them tricks to make the character look like that it's actually the character moving. But it's really just that little bird cage. That's all that's moving in this whole entire engine. And when the character comes out of the capsule, like you see here, let me go back into a single screen. Yeah. So see how when she jumps, the top of her head actually comes out of the capsule? Well, then that means that she would clip. Same with her arms and stuff. So when she jumps, watch her arm clip into the wall. See that? The only collision on this character is that bird cage. She has a physics asset, but that's not the same as collision. So any part of your character that comes out of the bird cage will clip. Same with the gun, right? If the gun's sticking out of the capsule, it'll clip right into the wall. Oh, wow. They put now I know why they've got that damn walk in place animation in this project. It's when you collide. See how she's just barely moving? If you don't have that logic in there, they just slide around on the ground. So they complexed up this project to try to make it not be as derpy. That's the whole point of what they did with this. Ed. You know, and this still ain't perfect, right? I mean, I hate critiquing other people's work, but the whole point of that IK stuff, I mean, look at that. Okay, fine. But it's still fucked up, right? Because look what happens when you do this. Look. And that was the whole point of them putting IK in, was to solve that. Well, they only solved it when you're a certain distance from the ground. See? You can still do this same shit where they, oh, look, they're hanging out into the air. No, Danny K, I haven't looked at that stuff. I've been busy trying to get all my templates updated, which I submitted the teams and class select today. The, what was it? Multiplayer FPS basic. It got updated today. It's live now. The 5 version is live. And so in a day or 2 or 3, the teams and class select, I didn't have very much success with that one, but it did get updated and it does work. But during the process of that, I actually found something else that's broken all my templates. And I may go fix them. I don't know if I will or not. The timer is screwed up when you set it in from within the game in progress. You know how I put that little server menu in where the server can initiate map travel and he can reset the timer? When you set it to 1 hour, it sets it to 1 minute. And it was because I forgot that I was actually needing to do a check in a different place, and I didn't find it until I did the teams and class select, and that's when I noticed it. So that means the simple capture the flag does the same damn thing. The TPS basic does not have a match timer, so that one don't matter. And the FPS basic does the same thing. Hello, Ripper Junkie. What's happening, dude? We did a multiplayer respawn system on live stream today. Someone sent a contribution and wanted me to make a video about it. So I did. I'm trying to make this template grow on me. If I figure if I run around in circles in here long enough, I'll actually like it. How about that? The Ragdoll actually will move them boxes too. See? Didn't hit it with a capsule, I actually hit it with the Ragdoll and it wiggled it. You can use all those Lyra animations if you start from here, right? It would just be a matter of getting them all implemented. But if you don't use this template, you're going to have that wrist crushed, which is unfortunate. Oh, trying to get the female cowgirls. Yeah, I don't know what they'd look like. We could find out. Oh, shit. Well, it wouldn't be using these animations. I don't even remember how. What the hell was that even? Western Chicks, right? What the hell was that even called? Western Girls. Less than a gig. I guess he updated this to 5. Yeah, it says it's compliant with it. This is another one of these content creators, I think, that put 7,000 damn material elements on these fucking characters. No, I quit drinking those monster coffee drinks. I think they were basically killing me. So now I drink real coffee, but that ain't what I was drinking. I was drinking some kind of a cream soda. I just finished it. Well, there she is. She's got no controls. But what we could do is, let's see here. If we were to replace this mesh, oh, that's the animation blueprint. That ain't what I'm looking for. And then, damn, is that the damn animation blueprint for his shit? Nope. It's that one. All right, and then we change this back to that. About now. These characters are so dark. I wonder. Let's see here. Stupid retargeting shit. I wonder if we were to try this. Take that one. Actually, take that one. Duplicate and retarget. And this would be UE5 Manny to UE4 Manny. That would be see. Let's see how bad I just blew this up. All right. That should have her using Quinn's animations. Oh yeah, that looks bow-legged as hell. Giddy up, sucker. What the hell? What in the Sam's hell just happened there? Oh yeah, that retargeted fantastically. Look at that shit. Fucking retargeting garbage. Yeehaw. Good God, there it goes, son of a Now that is what I call a fantastic retarget. Damn. Damn. Hey, look at that. She's got IK. But she's also got this. Son of a bitch. Houston, we got a problem. Damn. You know, part of the reason that this character could be so dark is because this does not have a character indirect detail volume. Let's see if that will actually make this better. Right, so we come over here to volumes and we look for a light mask character indirect detail volume. We'll put that in here and we will expand that. And we will expand that way and that way. And let's see. Build lighting only. Well, that don't even look like it built anything. I know good and goddamn well it can't be that quick. Nope, that don't look like that changed much. Too damn dark. It is definitely dark. Good God, look at all them material elements on this fucking thing. Look at that. There's 22 because it starts at 0. See? There's 22 fucking material elements on this goddamn character. You know what I think he did? Just to be perfectly blunt and honest, because that's how I am. I'd about be willing to bet you my left nut that he made these characters in Daz Studio and ripped them out of Daz Studio and put them in Unreal Engine on their marketplace. In other words, he didn't model these characters and shit. That's what I think. Could be wrong. I don't like to make false accusations, but I'd about be willing to bet you that's what he did. Oh yeah. Each one of these materials is a draw call. So that means there are 22 draw calls for every character. Now double that for multiplayer with just 2 players. 10 players, it would be 22 times 10 for just the character draw calls. Ain't optimized worth a shit. Your FPS would tank. Totally. You got to be careful when you buy stuff off that marketplace because they will take you for a ride. I used to remember the command for draw calls. I don't remember what it is now, but I tested these, and yes, for every material element on your object, it is a draw call. Every one of them. That is so hysterical to me. You know what it probably is? It's probably those guns. I don't know. That retargeting shit don't work worth a damn. Imagine what she'd look like if she got bucked off a horse. Holy shit. Whoa. That's one way to get them over the wall. It looks like she's possessed, man. Something's... Oh my God, something's grabbed a hold of her. She's feeling it in her soul. You know, it could be, let's see what physics asset this character is using. Let's go fetch her. that is fucking hysterical, honestly. Look at all them damn material elements. That's fucking insane. Yeah, it's using the SK female base. I wonder if it'll use this physics asset. There you go. Oh yeah, that looks great. That fixed it. At least she ain't flying all over the place. Now she just turns into Jello. That's retargeting in action for you guys right there. See how good that stuff works? Now you guys see why I don't fuck with that stuff. It's garbage. Oh yeah. All right, guys, I think I'm going to end the stream here. So for the guy who made the contribution earlier today, wanting the multiplayer respawn, I appreciate your contribution very much. Thank you for that. I hope I answered all your questions. Feel free to reach out in the future. always ask before you send me any money, because there's some things that are just too far, too long to cover in one of these videos. And sometimes you may be wanting to know something that I don't want to do. So if any of you guys ever want to request a tutorial on a specific topic, first email me and ask me what it is that you would like covered. I will reply with an answer as to whether or not I will. And also be aware that it requires a contribution to my YouTube page in order to get me to cover it. So I don't do these for free. Sometimes I make free videos just because, but if you're wanting something actually covered, it costs money. Okay. Screw you, John Galt. I'm going to go find free ones. Well, knock yourself out, right? I mean, you don't have to, but I do not give away work for free. If somebody pays for a tutorial and they don't care whether or not that I make it public, I will do so. But if they request a tutorial and they specifically say, I don't want nobody else to see this, well, then it gets made and done in private. Okay. So yeah, that's how it works. With that, you guys take care. This is John Galt, and we will see you in another video in another time. Have a good one, fellows and fellettes. There are fillettes.